Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to day 12 of the Workplace Power Leverage Sessions. This is the 31-day career accelerator for value-driven professionals. And the goal, as always, is pretty simple. I want to help you win at work and in life. And you know how I do that? I give you 9 power leverage, which will help you accelerate your career, grow in your recognition in the workplace, help you to earn the kind of income you want so you can live the life that you want. Over the last 11 days, we've been talking about 4 different power leverage. Today, we actually come to the end of the 4th power leverage. That's your skill power leverage. Now, if you remember, we spent the last two days on the skill power leverage. For the first day, one of the first things which you had to actually decide was, are you in the right job? Are you in the job that actually aligns with your most important values, that helps you deliver the most important values to you? And number 2, are you in the work that helps you, that aligns with the financial future that you have created for yourself? And there were a couple of other questions which you were meant to do on the first day of our session on the skills power leverage, in terms of couple of questions you need to ask yourself, which will help you decide whether you are in the right job. I hope you've been able to do that assignment in the workbook. The second day, what we actually did was we actually doubled down a bit in terms of, once we've been able to agree whether the current job is the job you're supposed to be on, or there's supposed to be a job out there that you need to find for yourself, you double down on it, and doubling down on it, you actually begin to identify what are the core skills that you need, in terms of skills you need for on-the-job superior performance. That's the goal for us really here. We're not talking about you performing like everybody else. We want you to perform differently from everybody. There are 3 core skills group. We went through all that, and by the end, your assignment was primarily this. You were supposed to come up with the gaps that you identified in the 3 groups. Now today we're going to go a bit. We're going to put a pin on everything. The skill gaps that you've been able to identify within those 3 skill groups. Now, what we have to now do is we have to go ahead to address those skill gaps. Yes, today our responsibility is pretty much simple. We need to take action in terms of rectifying the gaps that we've identified with regards to those skill gaps. Now, in terms of identifying the gaps in terms of dealing with the gaps that you've identified, there are a couple of things that you need to go through in terms of identifying it. Number 1, you need to ask yourself, in terms of importance and weight of the skill gap, how important is this in terms of you being able to deliver the sort of results that you want? Because if a particular skill is core importance, the tactic and strategy that you're going to take in terms of addressing that will be slightly different. What I mean here is this: there may be some skill gaps that you've identified, but the difference in terms of those skill gaps is the fact that, look, that skill gap is not a skill gap that has significant impact at that particular point in time. For example, if it does not significantly distort your ability to be able to deliver on the job superior performance at that time in the minute, you can decide, you can take a slow burn strategy. But for example, let's say this is such a core skill that you need to have for you to even show up as an effective person in the workplace. For that particular thing, you need to take active steps. And if you look at the workbook that you have later on, there are actually 3 core groups, or 3 core opportunities that I've identified in terms of being able to address the skills. Number 1, I've identified books. Number 2, I've identified courses. Number 3, I've identified coaching. Now, depending on the importance and the depth of the gap that you have, I'm going to now make a call on it. Is it going to be books that you're going to focus on? Is it going to be is it going to be courses that you're going to go for, or is it courses, training? Is it going to be coaching? Of course, in terms of cost, you would see that it's actually a graduated skill. Books are generally cheaper than courses and trainings. Trainings are generally cheaper than coaching, because with regards to coaching, you're going on a one-on-one. Most times, if you get a good coaching, is either you're part of a group coaching or you're a one-on-one experience. And in most cases, because of the sort of tailor-made approach of coaching to help you address whatever issues that you have, that's one of the reasons why the cost of coaching is a lot more expensive than most of the trainings and courses that you might have. Yes, there are some courses and trainings that are pretty much expensive, but generally trainings and courses come lower than the cost of your coaching. So you have to now make a judgment call in terms of, look, the depth of needs that you have for that skill. Is this a skill that, look, you need to get it going from day 1? If it's the skill that you need to get it going from day one, then I may probably recommend you think of doing courses or coaching. And the reason why I think it might be necessary for you to consider courses or coaching is because courses and coaches help you to move faster. Because why? They work within the framework of a curriculum. The framework of the curriculum if a curriculum is structured very well, the structure is to take you from point A to point B. And so you would have had to do a bit of investigation in terms of asking yourself, the training that you're about to sign up for, does it take you from point A to point B? This is one of the reasons why it's very important before you sign up for a course, you try as much as possible to do a bit of investigation, because there are certain courses when you take them, they're just a regurgitation of information. And really at this point in time, it's not so much of information that you just want somebody to pump at you. What you want is something that is going to give you transformation and impact. So for example, like the 31-day accelerator that we've been doing over the course of our time, the way in which I've structured it, I've actually structured it along the lines of a combination of a combination of a training and a bit of coaching. Because for me, it makes no sense if I'm basically just giving you information. Look, information at this time is actually one of the cheapest things to actually acquire for almost everybody. All you need to do is go watch a YouTube video, do a bit of search online. I mean, now ChatGPT is even able to give you a lot. I mean, all you need to do is ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to scout the internet and give you whatever the information it is that you want. However it is you want it to be framed, ChatGPT is able to do that. But that's not what you want. What you want is something that you are able to implement on, which is why when you look at the especially the marketing copy of trainings and courses, you need to ask yourself, does this course promise to take me from point A to point B? And you need to ask yourself, what is the point A that this course is talking about, and what is the point B that it is talking about? Are those the 2 points that is point A where I currently am? Is point B where I really, really want to go? Because when you can make those judgment call, you find out that you are able to have a lot more engagement in some of those courses. One of the things, I'm sure you probably have heard this, people say, oh, if you pay for something, you pay attention. Look, I'll tell you, that's all crap. So that's I have a friend of mine who says that, look, that's good sounding bad advice. That's the way which he calls it. Look, the fact that you paid cash for something does not mean you are going to pay attention. I'm sure there are, a couple of courses or whatever that you guys have obviously paid for that you never bothered attending, or you still have it somewhere in your inbox telling you that, look, you still have access to this course. It's not, if you pay for something, does not automatically guarantee that you're going to pay attention. You know what determines whether you pay attention? If you have that immediate need. For example, if a course basically provides you just vitamins, it's likely you will not pay attention. But for example, if a course provides Panadol to the headache that you have at that particular point in time, look, you're going to devote that time to be part of that course, to be part of that training, to listen to that training, to watch the training, whatever it is. So really, a number of times, it is either, the question is really, is the course a need for you or just one of those nice to have? Because if a course is a need for you at that particular time, you find different ways of making it work. And I'll tell you this, money is not a reason for you not to be able to be part of a course. You know, I had I had one of my friends in which he told me the story of how he got into within the circle of a very, very highly paid coach. The coach is based in the US. This is the coach that has done a lot of work for the likes of the guy who did Chicken Soup for the Soul, the likes of Tony Robbins, etc. and everything. She's that caliber of person. And she said that, look, when he started following her and everything, and he wanted to get in her space and whatever, he knew, look, he could not afford to pay for any of the programs that she was on. But he noticed that she used to do a lot of online trainings and things like that. And you know what he did? He sent her a message and was like, hey, hello, ma, I would like to offer my time and service to be able to show up, take the notes for when you are doing all these trainings, transcribe and all those sort of things. And the only thing that I asked for is, I'm trying to remember, was it that he asked for 30 minutes of her time every quarter, or maybe 1 hour of her time every quarter? I mean, the woman liked it because she actually at that point in time did not have, this was before the days in which virtual assistants became a popular thing. So he basically, that was how he got into her space, by offering his time to do something. And in quote, he was almost getting like a double win, whereby he shows up, he's more or less part of the whole thing, listening to everything. By taking notes, he's actually getting a lot more from it. And then on the basis of which he's able to get a one-on-one with her, I think every quarter, whether it was one, I think it was probably like 1 hour or whatever, every quarter. But the point I'm making is that because he identified that as a need, even though he did not have the finances to be able to to be able to have her as a coach, but he was able to come up with an innovative solution that allowed him to still achieve whatever it is that he wanted to in terms of getting the coaching that he wanted from her. And so for me, the question I ask is that, look, if a course is Panadol for you, you'll find a way of making it work for you. You find a way of paying attention to actually sit down and actually watch, listen, or be part of the training. It is if it is more vitamins for you that you can tell yourself that, look, you're just going to leave it, whatever it is, you're going to come back to it, however. So the question really for you is that, look, the skill gap that you have identified, is that skill gap a core skill that you need for on-the-job superior performance at this particular moment? If it is that, then I would recommend you consider either doing courses, trainings, or getting a coach for that. If it is not, because look, depending on the stage we are in at the particular role on the particular job, you will find out that, look, there are some skills that, even though they are core and important to you, it's not something that you need to actually acquire in the immediate at that particular point in time. You have an extended time for you to cover the skill gap that you have there. For that situation, you can decide you want to use books, but my recommendation here is this: if you want to move faster, it is always better you try and do trainings or coaching. Coaching, I actually strongly would recommend coaching. If you want to move super fast, coaching is actually one of the best ways of being able to move super fast, especially if you have a coach that has a framework. I'm going to repeat that. If you have a coach that has a framework, because the beauty about a framework is that a framework tells you that, look, I'm going to take you from point A to point B, and you're able to monitor progress and you're able to monitor actual performance deliverables. So for example, as you're moving within, even from moving from point A to point B, there are steps in which you're going to be taking in terms of the transformations you're going to be achieving. And so your coach should be able to ask you and review the process and tell you that, look, the transformation you're supposed to deliver from point A1 to A2, have you been able to deliver that? Okay, yes, if we've been able to deliver that, then let's move to the next stage. That's the difference between coaching and trainings. With trainings, the goal is pretty simple. I'm going to give you the information. Whether or not you have achieved the transformation you need to achieve, it's really up to you. But with regards to coaching, if you work with a really good coach, the coach is not supposed to release new information to you until you've actually covered what it is that you're supposed to have. So for example, if you're supposed to move from point A1 to A2, your coach is supposed to give you the content for that A1 to A2 and give you accountability for you to move from A1 to A2. If you have not achieved the A1 to A2, he's supposed to hold forth before releasing the information to take you from A2 to A3. That's supposed to be how it's meant to work. Unless maybe you are just working with a coaching coach that is like, look, this is the fixed time that I have to work with you. Or look, during this fixed time, I'm going to pump everything at you. I'm going to pump it to you. In quotes, that's a bit of some of what I'm doing here, is that I'm making the assumption that you guys that are showing up, you're actually taking accountability for yourself and you're doing the work. Because for me, what I'm doing here is this: the whole 31-day accelerator experience is to take you from point A to point B. And what is the point A? Point A is that, look, you're at a particular level in your career in terms of how you are delivering your results. You're at a particular point in your career in terms of how you are able to bring value at your workplace. And I want to take you to point B. Point B is actually I call you the workplace multiplier, whereby you are the high valued employee who is able to deliver superior value at the office space. You have good relations with the people that you work with. You are engaging correctly within the organization. You are harnessing the power of the relationships that you have both within and outside the organization. That's supposed to be the point B, to take you to that superior employee level as a person. But before we get between point A and point B, there are different steps that we are doing, which is the whole idea of giving you different leverages. And the whole idea is that as you're achieving each particular step, it's actually taking you higher. It's taking you higher. And that's the reason why I've introduced the workbook. The workbook is the secondary level of accountability that you have for yourself. You are taking responsibility for your own results. And that's one thing you have to realize. Even if you work with a coach, even if you do trainings, you have a responsibility for your own results. It is not the responsibility of your coach to give you your result. It is your responsibility to get your own result. And so everybody gets what it is that they put into, whether it's a training, whether it's a coaching experience, whether it is reading a book. Everybody gets what they put into it. I remember one of the people that I like, Darren Hardy, he always recommends, he says that, look, with regards to books, his recommendation is that, look, don't read too many books, but read that he doesn't even mind if it's a case of you read a good book in just one good book in a particular year, and you spend the rest of the year actually implementing what it is that you read in the book. For most of us, we basically read books to tick off boxes. So, for example, I know there's always, for example, if you go to goodreads.com, there's your annual challenge in terms of you need to set annual challenge of the number of books that you want to read for that particular year. And you're supposed to have that challenge, and every time you read a book, you tick it off. So for some of us, that's the way in which reading a book is. We want to sort of tick off, this month we read 2 books, next month we read 2 books. But the real question is, it's not so much of the number of books that you read, is how much you're able to implement the books that you actually read. Now, I haven't talked about the big picture skill gaps that you need to cover in terms of whether you get a book, whether you have courses or trainings you go for, or you go coaching. One very important thing that I want to recommend is you need to develop a personal learning curriculum for yourself. I repeat, you need to have a personal learning curriculum for yourself. And what is a personal learning curriculum? What you basically do is on a daily basis, you identify, on a daily basis, you identify areas of learning you want to grow in. So let me give you an example. For example, myself, I've identified 4 areas that I want to always be learning and growing my learning experience in. And I'll give it to you. 1, spiritual development. Number 2, personal development. Number 3, people development. And number 4, communication. Those 4 areas, I'm always looking for content and material to be able to boost my knowledge in these particular areas. And what I've done is this: I have broken my days into learning areas. So for example, on Monday, I focus on spiritual development. On Tuesday, I focus on personal development. On Wednesday, I focus on book reading. So on Wednesday, I try to read a book on a particular area, whatever area it is that I've chosen or whatever. But on Wednesday, I'm focused on reading a book. On Thursday, it's spiritual development. On Friday, it's people development. On Saturday, it's communication. On Sunday, it's spiritual development. So every week, I'm getting learnings in those knowledge areas. And the way in which I do my learnings here is this: I'm one person who likes sound very much a lot, and so I do a lot of podcasts. So there are key podcasts that I select. There are key training videos that I look for on YouTube that I listen to, follow. Try and get the nuggets from that knowledge. But for me, every single day, there are learning areas that I focus on. And the way those by focusing on those learning areas, I'm improving on a consistent basis on those, because for me, I realize that those learning areas are core for me in terms of how I want to show up, whether it's at work or in life. They're very, very important to me, because if I show up rightly in these particular areas, I'm able to deliver value. For example, personal development. If I work on improving myself on a consistent basis, I'm able to show up as a better person, whether it's to my family, whether it's to people at work. I'm able to show up as a better person. People development. Once by focusing on people development in terms of how I show myself as a leader, both in my family space, both at work, improving the way in which I lead people, improving the way I help people to actually get results. Because one of the things I'll tell you that, look, the simplest way to look at people leadership is that, look, you are helping people to get results that is important for their life. It's pretty simple as that. That's the way in which I look at people leadership, helping people to get results that is important for their life. Because once I can help people get results for their life that is important to their life, they'll be willing to follow me into whatever direction in which I lead them. So I start from that perspective that, look, how do I help people to actually get results that is important to their life? So that's my own training curriculum. Every day I'm focused on learning in this particular area. However it is, whether it is an article, whether it's a video on YouTube, whether it's a podcast. I actually have days in which there are certain podcasts I listen to on different days, because those podcasts align very much with the learning curriculum that I've developed for myself. So just to bring everything together today, there are 2 things that I've tried to give you a bit of perspective of. Number 1 is the gaps that you've identified in terms of your skill. You need to take action on them. You need to decide whether it's going to be a book that you want to read and implement. You need to decide whether it's an online course that you want to, that is a course or a training that you want to be part of, or you want to decide whether it's a coaching that you want to get in that particular area. And that focuses primarily on the skill gap. The other thing which I try to also bring out to you is that the need for you to have an ongoing learning curriculum where you decide for yourself what are the learning areas that you want to focus on a consistent basis. And not only do you have a learning curriculum, you actually have days that you mark out that you want to be achieving the learning experiences that you have highlighted in those learning curriculum areas that you've identified yourself, so that on a consistent basis, you are actually taking responsibility for your knowledge areas. You're actually taking responsibility for how you grow as a person and how you show up for the people that are important, for the things that are important to you, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's relationship, whether it's in your community. You're basically taking responsibility for that. And with that, we come to the end of our conversation on your skill power leverage. I'm going to go do a quick recap in terms of how we've gone on this journey. The first day we looked at you taking a work audit for yourself, or actually doing a self-audit of asking if this work is actually the right work that you should be in. If it's the work that aligns very much to your highest values, if it's the job that helps you deliver the financial feature that you have. Once you've been able to clarify whether it's this current job you need to be on or another job, the next thing which we did, which was on day 2 of the skills power leverage, was to focus on the skills that you need for on-the-job superior performance. And by the end of that day, you are supposed to have identified the gaps that you have in your skill. And today we are actually addressing that skill. So by the end of today, let me show you your assignment for today. Your assignment for today is you need to go on in your workbook, the top 3 skill gaps that you've identified. You need to decide on the books, the courses or trainings, the coaching that you need to go for to address it. So it's very, very important you begin to take action. Once you've identified this, you actually need to now take action. It's not just for you to just identify. The goal of identify is for you to take action on every one of the things that you have identified. Thank you very much. With this, we come to the end of today's conversation. Like I said, very much likely that on Saturday, we might have a group Q&A session to bring everything together, have the opportunity of you. Like I said, the way in which I've structured this whole 31-day accelerator experience is to have a combination of both training and coaching. So let's look at Saturday as the day in which you're going to get coaching and feedback from me for you to be able to address whatever questions you may have, whether it's currently on your job or in any particular area that we've taken during our time together. Once again, thank you very much. I really, really want to appreciate everybody for joining today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we start on another power leverage. I want to wish you guys a wonderful day at work and a great time living out the life that you really, really want. Thank you very much.